Next up, we had Nicolas Moril's top 8 list. This is a Nubatama list. Some people were very surprised about this one. We have our Hanzos. We don't run Jamio Congo. We see 4 Rinne. So this is a really aggressive list. It's not trying to do any Jamio shenanigans. It's just trying to blast your opponent's face off and then go into Rinne. Everything here is just very beat down. We don't see any control-ish aspects. It's just beat and beat and beat and beat. Very standard plus. Might be ideal if you're running this in V Premium and you feel like you're constantly losing because the deck isn't that strong. Now you have a way to transfer it to Premium if you want to, of course. If you like it in V Premium, be my guest. But it seems to be a pretty easy deck to transition into Premium. Pretty cool to see that top.
And going into top 8, I was actually facing Nubatama Hanzo, and I went first, and he didn't give me the damage, but I went really aggressive, and I had the 2 Ulysses, and so I went hit face, put him to 3 damage, and then again, he didn't give me any damage, so he just rolled up and everything, and then the next turn I actually drove check Zarzan the prior turn, and then I just resolved Zarzan, and he's like, oh, you can do that to enable GV1. Oh, and it just clicked on him, and then I put him from 3 to 6 at that point, and I was able to, win that too. So shout out to him. He was a really nice guy.
Hanzo for me was actually pretty interesting. I didn't really see any gameplay of that deck in Premium whatsoever, and I was quite surprised to see it come out at the top. But I mean, if it works out, it works out, and I can't wait to see the VOD later on to see how this deck actually plays.
Alright, I'm Nicholas Morrow, Nick or Polar if you know me by Discord. And for those who don't know, yes, I'm the Hanzo player that plays 6 in BSFO and a Premium. Many have asked me to do a video explaining my personal experience at SpringFest, and I figured, hey, I'd give it a shot. So if any part of this sounds weird or not how you'd normally expect a video to go, then sorry about that. I'm not used to this sort of thing. But hey, I figured I'd give it a shot. So those who wish to see more content from me in the future, just subscribe to stay up to date. As time progresses, I'll definitely learn more as I go. If you guys have any tips you have for doing these sort of videos, leave them in the comments, or if you have any questions, do the same. So starting off, I'll give you guys a deck list yet again after many have already procured and reposted it. Afterwards, I'll summarize my events of the day with a little bit of gameplay. Starting out with the deck list, we have our V-Series starter, which could be Madoe, Magatsu, whatever the Magatsu grade 0 is. But I run Ushimetsu Maru, mainly because it's the Hanzo starter, and it's a Hanzo deck. And I just personally love this starter more in comparison to the other ones, so yeah. Going on from there, we have our main bad boy himself, Hanzo. You can't have a Hanzo deck without, well, Hanzo. The main point of Hanzo is the fact, well, he's a Hanzo name, which enables our multi-attack combos. Not to mention the fact, Hanzo preferably is just my favorite Nubatama grade 3. After him would probably be Shiranui, and that's basically how it would go from there. You never really use his axe skill unless you're going first. In that situation, you can go for a normal grade 3 rush turn. I can show that later on. Following up Hanzo, we have his alternative form, which is Tasagare, which is basically our superior ride, also called from Soul Multi-Attack Enabler. The funny thing is, I regularly didn't even get to use this that much. It basically just became down to got damaged out, use it as stride fodder, or it just straight up sat there. All the matchups didn't call for it too much, but the times that it did usually turned the tides of the game a good bit. Following up after that is your one spot for grade 3s. You can run out of any of our many different choices, whether it be Fuzen Kongo, or Crow, Kokoshigarasu, or Mitsukaze. Personally, I found Fuzen Kongo to work a bit better in this build, mainly due to the fact of decks that can hit higher numbers and build a hand size. This alone just enables them to guard a crap ton when it comes to shield value because they're not able to sentinel it, and it's hitting humongous numbers. This alone helped a lot in the DP matchup because his hand was so small after his build-up that he basically had nothing to work with besides like a PG and 2 cards. So this just swung for game and ended it. Moving on from the grade 3s, we have the grade 2s. Starting off for our main grade 2, we got our ideal ride target, which is Zangetsu. He can go for our main grade 2 turn, where we basically just call back row tokens, and then we can call a Genkai to boost the power even more and call another card for multi-attack potential. It all just comes down to how much damage they gave you on your first or second turn, and then you're able to debate how you want to take a grade 2 turn, whether it be hard rush. My favorite thing to do is basically use this, call Kurigiri, get 2 tokens, call a Genkai, give 1 boost and soul charge, and then use Zangetsu skill, get the 3rd token, and because of both of them, they each get +5, so it's +10 to every token. Then if you have this over here, it can go to soul, and you countercharge the one thing you used already. Zangetsu alone is just a very great card for noobs in general because it's a free token gainer and it gives them the only real option to boost besides Genkai. Which brings us to, well, Genkai. Genkai is the card that allows us to not only soul charge for giving anything boost, but also allows us to give tokens and himself even more power. Genkai is probably one of my favorite grade 2 since its release, because I remember when it first came out, I'm like, wow, that's Hanzo support. Even though it was meant to be played in Shiramai. Genkai alone has just been an intriguing grade 2, but he is very worth playing in the deck. Moving on from that, we have our Clan Selection Volume 2 card, which is Yamashi, who becomes humongous depending on how many grade 0s you have, which is just good in terms of tokens. Not to mention we can bounce cards back to hand and call more tokens. He is just... To be honest, he has his own slot when it comes to running ratio-wise. Personally, I found it good as a 2-of, especially when it comes to late game and your first stride turn in case you drive check over trigger, because it allows your Vanguard to do some funny shenanigans, which I'll show later. And our final grade 2 is Jianjin, who alone is just our main countercharger in the deck, not to mention more soul, and he gains more power just because you called grade 0s during the turn. Jianjin alone just works very good in general. So the more controversial spots of the grade 1 lineup, rather be run more of the Kurigiri in comparison to Kagasarashi. Personally, I found the Kagasarashi to be better than the Kurigiri, mainly due to the fact that it shows your Hanzos in the soul, not to mention searches for more Hanzos in the long run, which is why I personally find it better to run 4 of this in comparison to 4 of Kurigiri. So, but you still want to run Kurigiri for situations where you don't want to just lose this, and you want to keep your hand size in general. Not to mention Kurigiri is refundable and easier to keep on to in comparison to this, because this kills itself every time, while Kurigiri just stays with you in the hand whenever you use it. And then our main grade 3 searcher, because it's our only way for searching for Hanzo pre-grade 3 turn, and it's basically a nice 13k booster, 18 if you go Prot 2. It helps a lot in the long run, not to mention the fact it's an easy bounce return to hand and spammable when it comes to calling from hand. This spot is up for debate no matter what you want to do, really. Personally, I find it better, mainly due to the fact of our Jagameso turn where you're able to superior call it and then just immediately double the power. Another available option would be easily to just run something like Dodome, which is basically just nice deck filtering, but personally I found a borrow card to be great. Not to mention you could just return it to hand and just spam it all over again. So with the trigger lineup, I don't think I need to go into that much detail because I think it's kind of obvious why it's run this way. You run 4 V series heals, doesn't matter which ones, just 4 of them's fine. 4 stride fodder crit, mainly because you want to keep your grade 3s to shove into soul, or your grade 3 that you use as your main finisher, either be Mitsukaze, Fusenkanga, or Kakashirashi. I think that's how it's pronounced. And that's how you do it. Yeah, and that's how you use that for, instead of just stitching those all the time. If you don't have one of these, you just discard your normal Hanzo, because you're most likely sitting on normal Hanzo already. 3 GB crit because we have an over trigger and we can't run 8 crit like we used to. The over trigger is just nice to restand the Vanguard and getting more hand size from drive checks, standard overlord shenanigans. And then 4 draw PG because in this deck you usually go Prot 2 unless you're going against control decks or decks that hit high numbers. In that case you just stick with Prot 1. Going to the last part of the deck list, we have the G Zone. Personally, during remote fight, or Springfest remote fight, I barely used half of these, really. The main thing was, majority of the time, I could just stride this first, then stride Rene, game over. Not even that sometimes, literally round 1, strode Jaku, won that turn. That was a crazy part about Springfest, mainly due to the fact I went second almost every round besides one, which was against Derek Dow, and that was a game. So yeah, we got Jugamaso, which is usually your first primary stride target because it's our multi-attack enabler. Not only does it draw cards as well, it bounces our whole board, gains power, and gains crits. This card is just amazing as a whole, and it's just a great addition, especially for when you want to make Hanzo into a premium format, because you can just use the token enablers, get tokens, use the skill of this, you benefit. It's amazing. Following him, we got our 2 different Mugen Lords. This one I only used once, which was against DP. which just helped me take control of the Geoma glasses, which made them lose power and such, which allowed me to rush them hard and make them lose a lot of cards from hand. This one, I didn't use it all the whole tournament actually, which I found interesting because majority of the decks didn't really have field advantage or just never got that far. So this doesn't seem too required as a whole in terms of Nubatama anymore. It's still a good tech, and because this is definitely still needed in certain situations. But with how the format is right now, this card does nothing. But as time progresses, I hope after they get a ban list figured out, this card will most likely still be around and still be working out. Following him, we got Makuro. I think I used him once. You just use him to clear their board and gain hand advantage. That's all this is used for. You usually just flip him for your first target, and then you just go from there. Rene, he was probably used 2 or 3 times the whole day because we never really got that far. Or I just strode Jagameso consecutively. Rene just seemed dead in most situations, mainly due to the fact their hand was so big that it was like, even if I did this, cool, you're out of 4 cards. They still had 10 in hand. I'm like, oh, that's great. Rene's still good as a finisher in this deck, especially due to the fact he just keeps the Hanzo name for Superior Call and Tasagaris for gaining more damage, but I wasn't able to do it too much. But the games that it did definitely left impacts on the people. The G-Guardians, personally, I hate these things because Zashikime is useless half the time. You could honestly just get rid of one of this and throw in another one of this if you wanted to do that. I think I used this against an Eradicator player because I didn't want them to keep giving a Sentinel Restrict to everything. This was just an amazing 30k shield. I think I used this maybe once or twice, but I have no idea. It's been a week, 2 weeks now? Yeah, it's been a while. It's weird finally getting this video out now, but hey, y'all were persistent about it, so that's where you get it from. And then moving on from that, I will then proceed to talk about everything that did happen. Moving on from the deck list, it's time to explain how I actually managed to get that far with Hanzo. All the decks without running cards, it says Jammy, the Crow, or as someone in Psalm's video keep insisting, Misokaze. Round 1 was a game against an Extreme Battler player, a really nice guy who went first, normal ride-up turns, after his grade 3 turn I was at 4, he was at 3. I strode Jakameso, set up a board, swung with rears and put him to 5. Jakameso returned my board and I called off Yamashibuki and Oboro card, so Jakameso became 74-2 crit thanks to a Oboro card. And then he no guards it, embraces death. I drove checked an additional crit, which put him to 6, which wasn't really that needed to begin with. And I drove checked the over trigger, which didn't matter at all. So if the game had continued, I would have been able to use Yami's skill to bounce Oboro back to hand, use Jakameso's skill again, and then be able to continue swinging with Van and call another board and draw 2. Round 2 was against the Overload player who later managed to place 8th in NA. Another great guy. It was a very fun game, I guess is a way to put it. That game I lost a die roll yet again and damage checked over on his second Overlord swing. I built a hand he can break and won by top decking a grade 3 and striding Rita. Now when it comes to round 3, I had to fight Derek Dow from WCC. The only game throughout the day I went first and lost. The game was practically even to one another and damaged over on 6 and lived. I pushed him to 5, but next turn he drove check over and he had the restanding grade 1 Nightmare Doll. So yeah, that's how that went. He was a chill guy, but I went in there with my friends cheering against me, wanting Dow to win, so that hurt my feelings. So yeah, I lost to Dow. Round 4, I had to face against Lord, and I honestly have no clue how I won that game. He went first in Superior Road. Meanwhile, I had to G-assist for grade 2 twice, and during those 2 stride turns, he strode into the 2 of the Luard strides, meaning Drag Abyss and Drag Driver. Proceeding to live his turns because he ran out of grade 1s for Tagda, then proceeded to win by a deck out. I have no idea how it run round 4. The man was kind of great, but we talked about how awesome Nubatama was as a whole, and I shouldn't have won that at all. Round 5, I had to face yet again another member of WCC who played Fenrir, the man Warrap. Warrap was probably the nicest guy I met all day. Everyone I met was nice, but Warab definitely was probably the nicest guy I met that day. No offense to all the other people. Not only do we play a normal game without any damage deny or meta plays, he was going to let me take the point either way since he was going to drop. Shout out to Warab, who later added me as a Discord friend. He messaged me later that day or the next day congratulating me on getting that far. We had a nice talk with each other. Round 6 was against a DP player. He ran the Enigma ride line with one grade 2 build. I guarded his dial-liner with the overtrigger so he didn't have to take that to the face. I pushed him to 4 on my first stride with Giacomeso again. He did the standard Glass play with DP, but I kept my damage at a low 3 so I could actually live. Next turn was my only time I used Goku that whole day, just so I could use Dominate the Geos so he wouldn't have the extra shield for the turn. Got him to 5 and he had 4 to 5 in hand. He strode Gallop and gave a guard break, broke 2 of my protects and pushed me to 5. But I then just guarded his whole hand next turn. He strode Gallop again, but double PG GG. Strode Rene and killed him that turn. Nice guy, great attitude, and as well as DP player, I expected from getting that far. Going to round 7, it was the most nervous rush I had since. If I didn't win, I wouldn't go top 8. That was against an Eradicator player who played the Superior Ride Descended build. And of course, once again, didn't win the die roll, but I was lucky since he didn't get the grade 2 and 1 needed for the Superior Ride. That game was basically call minimum board, and what I do, call just return it to the hand. His first Dunverse just bound 3, so I was safe from that. I dominate is grade 1 for a Guardian that have Sentinel Restrict after Vanguard Swing. I honestly don't remember what was my main way of killing that game for I was just on the edge the whole time. Going into top 8 made me so happy. My friends started cheering for me instead of Derek down, kept saying hashtag Polar Express. I'm still holding that to their heads for not believing me till round 7 after. I had to fight Commander Jamie's Fenrir Loop first match, and so that's why I proceeded to lose and get knocked out of semifinals, placing 6 overall. I did the normal play of damage denied, but my hand was utter crap, so I had no choice really. He killed me his first grade 3 turn since he uses Zarzan to get GB for Taro, and it just killed me right there. Jamie was a very nice guy, and he showed me out in his videos. It only seemed fair I did the same. I talked to him on Discord a little bit ago, and he's a great guy as well. Y'all should definitely look him up. In terms of actual gameplay, it would usually go something like this, because every game I went second, besides Derek Dow, but we don't talk about that. You would open your starting 5, it would be the normal thing. Your opponent rides, you draw. You ride the grade 3 searcher, you draw, you get your quick shield, look at the top 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get a Hanzo, you discard the quick shield, and then you would just shuffle. From here out, they realized I'm playing Hanzo, so majority of the people had no idea the Hanzo matchup or how it would work in the situation. You discard quick shield. You would swing with the Vanguard, they take it, drive check, heal, that doesn't mean anything. They do their turn, they deal you maybe 1, maybe 2 damage. You start your turn, you draw. This is the ideal type of grade 2 turn. You'd ride Zangetsu, call Kirigiri, Kirigiri's skill, you return it to your hand, you get your 2 tokens. That's the wrong type of token. Need to grab that. You'd make your 2 tokens. After that, you call Genkai. Genkai gives one of them boost, you soul charge 1. After that, you call a Gienjin, use the Langetsu skill, you get another token. Keep going for the wrong pile. So the best part is, because of both Genkai and Zangetsu, all of your tokens are additional +10 instead of just +5. Genkai gives himself +5. Then when this one, this is also +5. So that means your Vanguard's a 19k column that they'll usually take. You get nothing because we're not good at this game. Casual 24 yet again. This goes to Soul and you get the counter charge. Then your opponent does their whole turn. You have all these interceptors you're allowed to work with. You normally just be like 2 to pass on a Vanguard swing that's at a 13. They'd most likely not get it, and then you take no damage for that turn. Because for Nubatama, they normally don't want to call rear guards, especially in a matchup such as this. I wrote Hanzo, get a prop marker. That's a force pile. Where are my prop markers? I don't know, but in this situation, you would go prop 2. Did Hanzo to stride. I was not prepared for this. Where is it? Where's my G-Zone? The heck? Oh, here's my G-Zone. False alarm. Found the G-Zone. So from there, you would stride into Giacomeso. And then following that, you would just call Kirigiri like usual. And by using Kirigiri's skill, Soul Blast 2. Actually, you don't even need to use Kirigiri in this skill because we're such good players. We got our Kagasarashi, which will kill itself to get 2 tokens. And now we question where our tokens went. There they are. And since our Vanguard is still technically a Hanzo, you can put this Hanzo into Soul and search our deck for any other Hanzo. Usually don't Superior Call Hanzos from Soul when you use Giacomeso, mainly due to the fact his skill will proc return them all to hand, which is not something you want to do at all. So you would shuffle the deck like a good player instead of stacking the deck. Even though these tokens don't have boosts at the moment, Genkai still has +5, and these also have +5. And the best part about Giacomeso, since you're bouncing your board back anyways, you can do something stupid like this. So you can swing for a casual 13, which is the 5k guard, 5k card again. This swings, you sack 2. You'd get to flip a card. In this situation, Makuro, because I was like useless all day. You bounce your board back. You draw 2 cards. Draw 2 triggers because you're not a good player. You'll then Superior Call something like Kurigiri and Genkai, because why not? And then this is 37-2 crit, but since you're smart, you'll put it on this side instead. Triple drive, blank, 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 we'll draw, power there. Then you just swing with this, de-stride, then you casually bounce that back later. That's just a normal first turn. Your opponent goes, you guard what you need to, you debate on superior writing, then you realize your hand's crap, so you don't even bother. Your opponent attacks you, you take 2 damage from their rears, their Vanguard swings, you PG it, you discard something like... What would you discard in this situation? You discard a borrow card because it's dead in this situation. A borrowed card is mainly good for a stride turn where you can Superior Call it behind Giacomeso because it can double the power, making it far more lethal. From there, you'd PG it, you'd stand and draw. From here, I would discard the Fuzen Congo. Actually, I wouldn't even discard the Fuzen Congo in this situation. I'd discard the Tasagari even though you want it in the Soul, but in this situation, you don't really need it. So you would just put Rene there. And then you would use Rene's skill to force them to dominate 2. Because you could do a double Gigameso stride mainly to build hand. There are times where you do want to do that, but there are times where it's just kind of not a great idea. That's why I usually keep one of my 2 unflipped, mainly for just combo plays in situations such as that. Here, I probably wouldn't use Kurigiri's skill. Actually, in this situation, I probably would. Depends on what the soul is at the time. In this situation, you would just Soul Blast 2, turn it to hand, get your 2 tokens, put it there. And since we don't really have too many attackers in this situation, I would call him a Kagasarashi as well, to kill it, to put more Hanzos in the soul, get another 2 tokens, and then search for another Tasagari. Mainly because this way you can build board but for defense next turn, but you're still keeping your hand at a very decent size. Not to mention they're 5Ks, but that doesn't really matter. So from here out, you would just do a normal combo play of just keeping your Hanzos in the soul, be more conservative of your resources. So this would just be a casual 14. Your Vanguard swings the skill of the 2 Hanzos proc, allowing you to just Superior Call them. Call them something like that. They gain additional +20. Do your triple drive, blank, crit, all effects down there, crit down over there. Then they're probably like 4 or 5, lethal. End of turn, you get the nice D-stride. You just go back to soul. You then get another 2 tokens back. Then this is where you kind of debate how you want to play the game out. This is where you decide if you want to do some guarding shenanigans in case this is situational. In this case, in case you're going against a deck that has no way of like wiping your board, I'd say do this because it's better shield overall. So you discard this, go into this, get your nice protect marker again. Everything gets another plus 5k shield. So these are 20k's interceptors in the back row. Actually, it should be 20 or 25. I'm already forgetting what protects do. I don't know where my protect pile is, so I have no idea. 10k, 10k, 10k. So your opponent would swing like, let's say 22, 24. You just say double intercept. The other one swings, you say intercept again. Vanguard swings for normal 30-ish amount. You just say 2 or 3 to pass. And just in case, you'd say, here's a crit, no pass. Because you're able to do that. And how many hand cards did that use? 1. Then end of turn, you would put that Hanzo back into the soul and get yet another protect marker. Then you would start your turn and draw. And then you would discard your crit stride fodder, because this works in that situation. And because your soul is very limited right now, you have to do this very specifically. So what I would do here, after ditching the crit stride fodder, because you want to keep your hand at the right amount, the best thing to do would probably be just stride Rene again, mainly because you don't have too much hand to work with, and you'd prefer to keep cards in your soul at the moment. So I would go Rene, and then I would follow it up by using the skill to force them to call 2 more attacks. Their hand's going to be practically empty by now. And then there'll probably be maybe 2 4-hand cards, something like that. From here out, I would say call 2 of Yamashi to the protect circle, or then another one in front of it. So that way it's a 13k. Another thing you could do is call this to double, but that's not really worth it. So I would say leave it something like this, swing for 13. Then you'd have your Vanguard swing, shove them both to soul, you draw 2 cards, plus 20. Then you just say 37, or 47, what are you gonna do? Say nothing, crit, blank, draw. It's just a nice way to build hand size and keep your resources limited, because it's still nice to put in that pressure, and if they somehow live again, this is just their turn to do their own thing. Here you're like, okay, I can afford 1 damage, so I'll take it. Oh look, a heal. I get another plus 10, how great. And then your opponent will swing at you. Let's say they have very few cards in hand. You could be like, okay, G-guard once. Go into my Zashikime. Using the skill, since you only have like 2 cards in hand, by flipping this, you have to discard. If not, more shield value, and they'll be like, okay, I discard it. You'll be like, oh, sweet, I'll G-guard again. And then I'll go into it again. Please, discard, or more shield. And they'll be like, okay, fine, I discard. And then they'll be like, fine, I won't discard. So now it's no pass or an overtrigger. And no one drag checked overtriggers offensively, like, ever. Besides Derek Dow, but we don't talk about that. And then that guards the attack from that. And then you can have another unit attack, and you're just like, okay, perfect guard. And then you can discard whatever you want. In this situation, I discard your engine because we don't really need to worry about CB because we're about to win anyways. So after that, you go into your turn, you stand and you draw. And because you are a good player at this game, you're able to rewrite Hanzo and get another protect marker. And then you can discard your crit stride fodder. Go into something stupid like Makuro. Because you have 3 available soul that you're willing to get rid of. So you can use Makuro's skill to Soul Blast 2. Flip 1. In this case, we'll flip our only non-flip G-Guardian. Discard 1. We'll discard our Zangetsu. We now get a nice little twin drive. We get a draw trigger. We draw all effects of the Vanguard. Then we get no trigger. Then from here, we can call our friend. We still have 1 available soul. Well, technically we have 2 available soul. From here, we will call our Fuzen Kongo to the right. And then I can call Genkai here, target Fuzen Kongo, and give a boost in Soul Charge 1, which gives us the soul that we need. Then by moving Fuzen Kongo that has boost forward, you can then call your Kuragiri, use Kurigiri's skill, Soul Blast 2, getting our nice 2 tokens, 1 and 2. Then you can do something stupid here, but it's not really something you should do. You would call Aizen here. And then, since you have 5 damage, everything is in lethal territory. These sadly don't have boost, but that's not really your main purpose. So that swings for 14. Then your Vanguard will swing, using the skill of all 3 Hanzos. Be able to sack that, Superior Call. Now you have a nice 42, 37, 37. Well, this is currently 37 itself. Then you get your nice triple drive, blank, heal. Sadly, we heal, which shuts off Fuz and Congo, which is a big shame, but we still have many more attacks, so it doesn't really matter. No trigger. And then this swings for a nice number. Then they're definitely dead by here. So the deck really, as Solemn said it, is just beat down, beat down, beat down. There are many different ways you can make this deck. This deck I found to be very fun and entertaining. I got a lot of compliments about it throughout the day. People are still complimenting me about it. I found this deck to be very fun, and I hope other people can find Hanzo to be as fun as some of the other Nuba decks, even if things such as Jammy get banned out of existence, because personally I do not like how people criticize Nubatama only because of Jammy's existence, or such as the Crow, or even Muzakaze, which is why I run Fuz Congo, mainly because of the fact I don't like people saying you only win because of this, this, and this. So you gotta play in a way that people wouldn't expect a good chunk of the time. Rounding out the video, I just wanted to say thanks to those who supported Nubatama to the finals, and all those who suggested I should make this video to begin with. I'll probably begin making more videos like this in the future. Don't know how things will play out, but we'll just see how it goes from there. I don't really know how often I'll do it, but I'll do it every so often. But you guys have fun, take care, and peace out.